Hi and welcome to episode 21 of The Party Line. This podcast is recorded on Aboriginal land. We stand in solidarity with our Indigenous brothers and sisters in their struggle against racism and capitalism.
Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling party line. Oh, I never will forsake thee, for I love this life of mine.
Okay, well, hey guys.
Hey.
Can you hear me today?
We got a lot of comments that Omar sounded like his microphone was off.
I'm a fucking inconsistent podcaster.
He really is.
Every week it's different.
I'm always like really loud.
Yeah, you are
You're
consistent.
crisp.
Yeah.
You're not just loud. You got a great voice.
Well, thanks for that. We were trying to think if there's any stories that we had to tell you because, you know, as we talked about last week, everyone likes the bullshit. But Geordie's work days got changed. And so we're recording this on a Monday. And I think we recorded the last podcast on
on Thursday.
On Thursday.
Yeah.
So like literally nothing has
Not much
happened
has
in our
happened.
lives.
Yeah.
I went to the beach, did some washing.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah. Just like, yeah.
I went to High Point.
I watched the tennis.
I watched the tennis as
Fucking
well.
Djokovic. I watched that one where he
Yeah.
won.
Oh, but you didn't watch the one where he
I didn't
lost.
watch the one where I was driving.
The one where he lost was really good. And I got a message
course it
actually
would be.
from someone who's going to be on this podcast later on. And they were like, oh, I want to hate Djokovic, but he's such an incredible tennis player. It's like, no,
That's disgusting.
that's the wrong position to take.
Yep. The party line on Djokovic.
He's a bad man.
Well, this is interesting coming from you, though.
What?
Separate the art from the
Yeah,
artist
no.
over here.
I'm sorry. Djokovic was like literally being locked up in a refugee detention camp
Yeah.
on Australia, and he didn't even talk about the refugees. He was
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah, no, it's terrible
insulted
person.
that he was there.
I
Yeah.
lived around the corner from that, the Park Hotel when Djokovic was in there. And it was really, really irritating because there was like huge community events out the front of the hotel, like playing like
For him.
music and
Oh,
like
yeah.
release Djokovic and stuff like that. And yeah, they didn't do anything
What
about
about
the
everyone
refugees.
else?
Yeah.
Okay, so sport, that's good. We did a bit of sport.
Yeah.
Tick.
Moderately bullshit.
The,
Doesn't
o-
even count as that, really.
the other thing that happened, we found out, was that Jordan actually plays a role
He's a film star.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
in the.
In Pauline Hanson's movie.
Did they pay you any money for using your likeness?
No.
Should
they
you sue
didn't.
them?
I don't think so.
Is it a
That-
flattering kind of image?
I mean, it looks like me. Like
Yeah.
it's quite clearly me. Like they've got the like random scraggly bits of hair that I have. They've got the like shitty kind of facial hair. Like it's me.
Do they call that a neck beard?
No.
It's
my
not
God.
like it. It's like it's the fact that I don't properly shave
Oh,
the
yeah.
below
Oh.
here.
Yeah,
I
same.
did this morning specifically because of Pauline Hanson.
So she's having an impact on the left as well.
Definitely.
Oh, no.
Do you know what your character does in the Pauline Hanson movie?
I sit on. This is in the trailer. I haven't watched the movie, but in the trailer, I am sitting on like this chariot next to this like I don't know soldier with like a German imperial helmet,
Oh.
and then
Is
Peter
it Peter
Dutton
Yeah.
is like drawing the cart kind of thing because it's like the woke have taken over and now we've enslaved the
You enslaved Peter Dutton.
Peter Dutton.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah. It's sure.
Wow, I didn't know you were so powerful, Geordie.
Yeah, neither.
I mean, Josh runs New South Wales.
True.
And Geordie has enslaved Peter Dutton. So this
Pretty good,
Socialist Party
yeah.
of Australia is fucking, we're kicking goals.
That's great.
What next?
Well, the next thing is the fact that we didn't kick some goals last week.
We fucked up.
We just
Yeah.
made like a few factual errors.
Yeah, 2 small ones. But we want to try and correct them. As we get a bigger following, we want to try and be more like factual.
Hold ourselves accountable.
Yeah. So there's 2 things. One is...
I didn't make a factual error. I'd like the record
Well
to
done.
show that.
Well done, Jordy. So the
Just
2
these
things,
two.
one is when Annika was talking about the targeting of Somali communities, I confused it with the targeting of Haitian communities in Springfield, Ohio. So there were 2 different targets, both very racist, but not the same thing.
Yes.
My bad.
And then the other thing was that we talked about a conference hosted by Israel, and we said that it was an ongoing event, but it was actually just a PR exercise that happened during the
They
genocide.
started it last year
Yeah.
purely to promote themselves as Israel as the consequence of the Holocaust, and therefore everyone has to support it. And it fell flat last year because people could see through the bullshit. But unfortunately this year, it worked better for them.
There was someone was also upset about when I said that the trees exploded in Minnesota. They said it was AI. But
Oh,
I
really?
maintain
Was
that
it?
They did crack. We didn't share the video of the AI video of the trees exploding. They did crack. So you can say if that's a correction if you want. But.
There's a lot of AI shit going around. Did you guys see that there was this video of Preddy kicking like an ice car and whatever?
Yeah.
And then all these American liberals were like, that's not him, that's AI. He would never do such a thing.
It actually was
and it's
him.
like, actually, the fact he did it is good.
Yeah, that's
he's,
great.
Like,
yeah.
even better than we thought. And secondly, it's like, this is a dangerous spiral. Like everything you don't like is just AI. Yeah. Welcome to the 21st century.
But a lot of shit is AI. You know that video of the, like, I don't want to share AI videos because, like, I feel like, you know, you shouldn't get caught out by them. I thought that video of the kids in the detention center that people were sharing around, the drone footage of the kids protesting in the detention center.
I don't remember that.
I thought that was AI, but then this guy on Instagram who does like
Texas.
Yeah, I think so. And then there was this guy who does like, that video is AI. And he was like, no, this one's not actually AI, which just like shows you how fucking just bad the situation is.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's horrible. I wish it was AI because it's like these kids just, you know, who have been taken from their families and they're trying to get any attention that they can. So awful.
I mean, that segues into the headlines because one of the headlines from this week is that the 5-year-old kid who was used as bait last week to get his parents arrested was released. Yeah. Thanks to popular pressure.
Yeah.
So that's another, you know, important little victory for the movement. It's obviously not enough. There's still heaps of kids being taken, but it shows that, again, resistance can achieve some stuff and they've just got to keep pressing.
Yeah, definitely. The headline that you have is judge ordered 5-year-old release, but data shows ICE is detaining more kids. So there's just a massive spike in the administration targeting families and young children. The video of them using the young boy as bait to try and get his family to come out is like one of the most distressing things.
Yeah. We didn't mention this last week, but there was data that came out that showed Trump actually deported over 600,000 people last year, which breaks the record substantially from the Obama years. And it's the first time the record's been broken. So Obama was the deporter in chief until last year. And then there was also another stat, which I think it was either 1.9 or 2.9 million people self-deported.
Wow.
So because the number of deportations has increased so much, and it used to be that overwhelmingly the people deported had committed crimes or were accused of committing crimes. So if you were a sort of, you know, law-abiding citizen, you could kind of rely on being safe. Whereas now, of course, that's not the case. They're just picking up anyone left, right, and center. And so, yeah, millions of people have just decided it's not worth it. They've just left, which is sort of part of the point, part of what he was talking about achieving. So, yeah, it's a mixed situation. There are some small victories, but there's a lot to push back on.
Well, one of the things that came out of last week, so we recorded on Thursday and the 2 days later was Friday America time. And there was just, again, these mammoth protests against ICE. Another 50,000 at least came out in Minnesota. I read this beautiful article. Maybe you shared it.
Minneapolis? I think you do in this case.
I did think Minneapolis in this case. Anyways, thanks, Omar. But Omar did do something good, which is shared a really beautiful piece of writing about the protests that happened on the 30th. I don't know, whatever.
Our time, probably 31st.
Which is just like all across the country, there were these mass protests. And one of the things that the writer says is because there were so many protests, he had to check the states after all these different cities because there's so many Lafayettes in America or there's so many, so there's a lot of common, you know, Springfield. There's a lot of Springfields.
There's Beirut. There's Lebanon. There's pretty much everything. It's amazing. What's the capital of Malta?
Valletta.
Is there a Valletta?
Well, there's no Valletta anywhere.
Okay. I mean, I don't really
There's a Melbourne in Florida.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Melbourne's very important. But is there a capital? Is the capital of Malta represented in America?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
There's like...
So even Lebanon's more important than Malta.
Yeah, there's a lot more people in Lebanon than there are in Malta.
Bit of national pride there for me. Carry on anyway.
Just
I think she's trying.
So there are people protesting in a lot of places, is your point?
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that was a sort of really important step forward out of the protests last week is that it incorporated the youth in a really, really major way. So one of the biggest protests was one in San Francisco. It was thousands of people. The footage of it, it never ends, all of these people in the park. And then you look at all of the individuals in this park that have come out for this protest and they're like 13, 14, 15. These young school kids who have walked out of school. So many of them have walked out of school that it means that their teachers can just join in the protests as well. These handmade signs, the joy, it's like when you see people move into struggle and they're starting to feel the strength of one another and they're just dancing and like climbing up light poles and street poles and all the rest of it coming out.
Yeah, high school walkouts have become like a real thing in the last decade or so, I guess.
Yeah, the climate ones.
Yeah. I think it's because high schools are like prisons, you know, you're stuck there, you're regimented. It's like a factory, but for kids, and kids are so rebellious inherently. So as they become more political, it's quite easy to organize, you know, like it's not like you have to like spend a lot of time communicating with people very far away from you. They're right there all day, every day in your face. And so when an idea catches hold, it can go kind of viral. There were high school walkouts in New York, in Colorado, Arizona, like just everywhere.
Yeah.
Also like big teachers strikes.
Yep.
And it's just now the teachers unions are sort of the most political and industrially kind of trigger happy, it seems, of all the unions, like, which is a really positive development as a teacher. Hopefully we can see a similar thing spread to Australia. It's not really where we're at. But yeah, like I read, like in one city in Tucson, which is like the second biggest city in
Tucson.
Is that a French word?
I don't know.
Yeah, anyway.
I just was taking an opportunity to correct you.
That's good. Take that. Yeah, there was like 1,500 teachers on strike in that one city. You know,
Wow.
and it's like a city of 400,000 people. So, very impressive.
Yeah, and we spoke about it last time, but I think it's worth like talking about. It's like with the school walkouts and stuff. It's not the same as like a strike at you know, I don't know, at work, I guess. But like a teacher strike impacts the people that have to go to work and stuff like that. And I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing with the protests, these mass protests and strike waves in America in response to the ICE raids is a revival of two really, really important things. The first is working class self-activity. You read through the accounts of people who were out on strike, and it's airport workers, council workers, IT workers, teachers, nurses, although not as many nurses because there's the pressure of staying on the job. But there's layers of people who've come out. So, and they actually forced their unions to come out and say something about this. Like so much pressure from below means that there has to be some sort of political response from the top. But they just looked for all of these ingenious ways to take basically protected action.
Unprotected.
Well, both though.
Oh, was
some of them were protected.
Oh, okay.
So in the school system, there's a bunch of different clauses around snow and around once X number of people have taken a sick day, it means that there's not enough teachers. So the board has to close the school down because there's not enough people.
Kind of WHS bans kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Work health and safety.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like way better.
Yeah.
I mean, in Australia, it's basically impossible to ever be allowed to strike.
Yeah.
Outside an EBA. Like we have such terrible laws.
So there's like unprotected and protected action that was going on around this. But the point being that, and one of our friends, Mick Armstrong, made this point that like the ICE strikes that are happening, the strikes that are happening in America, and we should acknowledge that there are these big, incredible strikes going on, are people risking their livelihoods to strike for illegal immigrants. Like that's what's going on right now. Like people are going on strike to protect people who like legally shouldn't be there or whatever. Yeah.
Not their like pay and conditions and stuff, but other people, like the other working class people.
And not people who, you know, look like them. Because we always get this liberal identity politics bullshit, you know, like it's whiteness and white people versus people of color and whatever, which is a very simplistic reading at the best of times. But then when working class people are actually fighting these kind of things can be overcome very quickly, you know, and like the comparison in my mind is to 2006, which was the day without an immigrant, massive protests and strikes actually across the country, especially in the South where there's way more immigrants, but across the country. But that was overwhelmingly a migrant action. Like there were solidarity from other people, but overwhelmingly it was migrants, legal and illegal. Whereas this is so multiracial and just raises the kind of classic working class slogan of touch one, touch all. Yeah. You know, we're all in this together. Globally, the working class is one, wherever you're from, race, religion, creed, whatever. Which is a massive step forward. And the fact that it's happening in America, you know, is a shining beacon because we know that the world pays attention to what happens in America. And the fact that even American unions are prepared to, this is a political strike. This is, and so much of it is wildcat, you know, like these are political, illegal strikes. Even in fascist, you know, Trump, America, whatever, people aren't being sacked by the dozen, unions aren't being destroyed. The Australian union movement could do the same thing. Totally. They could have done it for Palestine. They could have done it for refugees. They could do it, you know, whenever they want if they put in some effort, and they politically refuse to because they support the fucking Labor Party.
So what's happening in America is that layers and layers and layers of people are rediscovering the strike as a weapon, a political weapon that you can wield to win demands. The fact that that lesson is being learnt and taught to us by the people of Minneapolis and Minnesota is so, so important. And then I think the other side of it is the role of young people and students. So the fact that these student walkouts are starting to really spread all across the country. The protests that have happened against Trump over the last little while, like the No Kings one, they have been really important, but a commentator made the point that a lot of the people who are at them range a bit older.
Yeah, they are older.
But this is the youth coming out, and that can actually radicalize things.
Totally,
So we're having at the moment the two elements in society that can radicalize things come out together in actually this coordinated effort. So the protest that happened last week was called by the Somali Student Association in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. So they have called out people to come protest. Workers and students have heeded that call, and I think that's really important. And I'm not necessarily saying that it's definitely going to go in this direction, but historically the things that have led to political radicalizations have been those two elements coming out simultaneously.
Totally.
Yeah, and like I want to talk about like, because like that has an impact with like younger people, you know, engaging in this struggle and then joining their unions and stuff, which, you know, particularly here we haven't really been doing anything. Like we barely even go on strike and stuff, but it happened at my workplace. Like we're in an EBA negotiation at the moment. And for the last like 2 negotiation periods, our union has been like, oh, you know, that we don't want to go on strike. The workers don't want to go on strike because we had a really bad experience one year with a Liberal government. You know, we didn't win the things that we wanted to win and whatever. So the workers don't want to go.
Better not to try ever again.
Best not do that.
Yeah.
But then like last year or the year before, we hired 3,000 new workers, and they were predominantly young workers, like very new, like kind of graduates and like just out of high school kind of thing. And like, you know, they tried the argument again. It's like, we're entering a new bargaining period. We had this really bad one, like, you know, less than a decade ago, but that's what it feels like. And so like, we don't want to go on strike. And all of these, like this 3,000 new people are like, what? Like, no. And like some of them were in,
don't care about your experience, boomer or something.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like these people were in like the climate walkouts and stuff like that. And that's what they're like, yeah, this is what we do kind of thing. And it has an impact when you go on to the workforce and whatever and, you know, try and get sold these, I don't know, moderating positions by the union bureaucrats and stuff like that. It's like, nah, fuck that.
People with experience of struggle, it's great.
Yeah.
On the other side of the kind of thing, I saw a report that all these corporations have made $22 billion of extra profit by servicing us, like Palantir, like AI, data analytics kind of stuff. Deloitte, you know, one of the Australian government's favorite consulting firms, made like $100 million of extra profit. And there's all these companies, which one of them is like Loyal Government Services Co. or something. And it's like, oh my God, who named that? You know, what kind of mentality? Anyway, so yeah, this is big business, you know, like when they say they want to expand ICE, it means more military equipment, more, prisons,
More money to
AI,
private companies.
Exactly. Surveillance, state stuff. Like Palantir, one of the things their contract, said was like they're providing services to more readily identify and detain illegal aliens, So like, God knows what that means from their perspective.
I just want to make one brief point, which is that we are told so often that like ordinary people are to blame for things in the world. People are greedy, they're racist, whatever. I just think the stuff in Minnesota shows that ordinary people have the key to unlocking a totally different kind of society. We talked a lot about last week the level of organization that's taking place in Minnesota, the way that people are self-organizing, coming together, doing one another's jobs, doing food distribution, people standing from like, an hour before school starts, an hour after school ends to make sure that ICE don't come into the schools to take the kids.
Following the cars around, the ICE cars around. Just like resistance.
People aren't doing this because they're going to get some like personal profit and gain out of it. They're doing it because they see that this just is an abomination that has to be, destroyed, what's going on. But it shows you the way that people could organize society in a totally different way, I think. And for anyone who is just totally outraged about the way that capitalism destroys the planet, destroys lives, leads us to war, the Minnesota stuff should be an absolute inspiration to you. And you should like hold on to it.
Totally.
Because it's proof of the argument that socialists make that working class people could run the world differently.
Totally. Another example of resistance is the reaction to the new Millennia documentary.
Great segue.
Which has had a strong box office showing of $8 million on its opening weekend, which apparently makes it one of the most successful docos in 14 years. But Amazon has lost like $96 million on that already and counting. So I'm excited.
Who thought that there needed to be a Melania documentary?
No, well, that's not the point of it. The point was like they paid double what it was like worth, I guess, so that Jeff Bezos could prove his loyalty to the Trump administration.
So it was like a fealty.
This is a bribe with an extra step.
Yeah.
Really?
There's also a movie about the bribe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I saw a thing that like Abu Dhabi, which is a city in the UAE or an emirate in the UAE, they just invested heaps in Trump's Bitcoin, like personal Bitcoin, the Trump coin or whatever.
Yeah.
This is how the Trump regime operates. Like
it's the same with the like they'll do like what was it? I think it was like Vietnam or Thailand spent like a bunch of money to license a Trump hotel just before he dropped the tariffs and stuff like that on that particular country. That's how it works. But also like because I think he not like it went out to tender or whatever, but like the next highest company that was willing to bribe the government, like the Trump administration, well, the Trump family, like this is $100 million that went directly to the Trump family, offered like, I'll give you $50 million for like a nice, like Australian for a nice, like treat me nicely kind of thing. Give me a government contract here or there or whatever. And it's like Jeffrey Bezos was like fucking 100. I don't know what his actual full name is, but like I'm not calling him Jeff.
There's a lot of good Jeffs in history. Yeah. But yeah, so basically people are boycotting this fucking movie. They hate it. No one turned up.
But it's a bad weekend for the Melania documentary because the director was just named in the Epstein files. There's a photo of him and Epstein and two young women in it.
Great.
So the rot continues.
I mean, there's a photo of Bezos and fucking Ghislaine and whatever. And anyways. The Epstein files are great. Really fun reads.
They tell you a lot about the world elite and how they work.
One story that was like actually just horrific. Well, anyways, horrific. They're all. But Bill Gates emailed Epstein for advice about how to slip like antibiotics into his wife's food or drink because he got an STD from whatever.
Oh my God.
And gave it to his wife and was like looking for advice about how to like secretly give her antibiotics.
I mean, that's mental, but also what's Epstein? What does he have to offer?
I mean, I feel like he's probably an expert on drugging people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
That is.
I mean, Bill Gates obviously thought so.
Yeah, that is so fucked up.
It's
These
really
people are
disturbing.
psychopaths.
Yeah, it's
Absolute
so bad.
psychopaths.
Well, so the Melania documentary was a real failure. What's also failing is Trump's control over his bowel movements.
Yeah, there was a really funny video that's going around of Trump doing a press conference, and you just hear him
Shit himself.
and then like all the people behind him just look at him.
And then he ends the
Look at
press
disgust.
conference.
And then he ends the press conference. It's actually amazing. And the comments on the comments on Reddit. Anyway, it's enjoyable, you know. It's good to take the elite down a few pegs sometimes.
Okay, moving on to terrible rich people. Oh wait, staying on the topic of terrible rich people. What have you got here, Omar? Or is that you, Geordie?
No, this is not me.
This is from Tom Bramble, who's a former professor of industrial relations in Queensland. He posted this thing of this like rich guy from Queensland who has been charged with like
Bribery.
No, different story. Who's been charged with like raping, assaulting, all this shit, like 50 different counts of violence and abuse and assault. And he got bail and he walked out. And there's just this picture of this like kind of white guy looking pretty buff in a polo shirt, strolling down the corridor. And the story was just like totally matter of fact about the fact this guy got bail. And he just made the point, like, imagine if there was an Indigenous kid who'd been charged with 50 different violent offences, and what the media would be like if he or she were released on bail.
Yeah. It really is the thing of like one rule for the rich and one for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he's the founder of the charity Serving Our People. That's great.
I'm sure he's serving his own tax rate.
That's the headline, though. The headline is charity founder.
I mean, he's a good guy, apart from his rape and abuse and assault and stuff.
One of the captions on a post about this was the White Shoe Brigade. Do you know what a White Shoe Brigade is?
Maybe it's like how like rich white women wear white clothes.
White shoes
like,
specifically.
But like white pants, white tops.
Yeah.
Maybe just like wearing white shoes is like a symbol that you're rich and you just clean everything or you have someone clean it for you.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
And maybe if you know what the White Shoe Brigade is, pop it in the comments.
Yeah.
Teach us something.
Let us know. The other crime of rich white people is this executive who was involved in the bribing of foreign countries for the Australian business elite. $45 million of bribes. The scandal's gone on for years and years and years. Was found guilty and fined $1,000.
That's so good. That's cost of doing business stuff. That's like
it's so efficient.
Yeah,
like
$1,000.
That is nuts.
That's great.
It's described everywhere as a landmark case.
In a bad way. Yeah,
$1,000.
I just think it makes sense to keep on doing it.
Yeah, like why wouldn't look how low the cost is?
Exactly. Like
as a percentage
Sarah
of 45
gets
million.
more in car park fines every other month.
Yeah.
Just for parking in the wrong spot. Than this guy has for like using $45 million to bribe a foreign government.
That's insane.
Yep.
Something else.
If somebody wants to bribe us $45 million, we'll pay your $1,000 fine.
I think that's fair.
We'll pay it. Promise.
What are they going to bribe us for? Like a plug on the podcast for $45 million?
Whatever you want. We'll do it for $45 million.
No, we won't.
Yeah. Maybe. Depends.
Yeah.
In Victorian news, the government has announced the next 7 public housing towers that they're going to demolish.
This is on top of the previous ones.
Yeah. So they're demolishing all of them. But they've been announcing like which ones they're demolishing first.
Gotcha.
Like all of them are going. But like previously they've been like, okay, we'll do these 2 or these 3 here. Then we'll do these 3 here, and that's been like, so those are the first 2 tranches. And by the second tranche, there was a parliamentary inquiry. A bunch of people made submissions into it and all that kind of stuff. Some of the submissions, like one from RMIT, detailed like, this is really distressing to older residents, particularly like all residents, but like older residents particularly have, there is a physical health element, obviously a mental health element. Like these people can't move, like they can't lift, they've lived in these places their whole lives. So they've got like stuff in there, like beds and stuff that are, I don't know if you've ever moved a bed, not light. And if I was like 70 years old, I probably couldn't lift a bed. And then there was a public housing resident named Kerry who was like, this person died because of moving house. This one is likely to have died because of moving house. Again, older public housing residents.
Yeah, because you take them out of their community, their network,
Totally.
their routines,
yeah,
their
exactly.
support services. Like
100%.
you're just thrown in the middle of the suburbs.
Yeah.
Here you go. You're in Melton. Do what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what the fuck?
Away from everything,
Yeah.
away from you, like away from the co-health
Yeah.
places,
exactly,
like
all
the
stuff.
places that give you like medical attention and stuff like that, which you require. So the parliamentary inquiry heard all that evidence and then was like, stop this, like don't do this. That's the recommendation. So then the government has just come out again and was like, okay, the next set of demolitions won't be 2 or 3, it will be 7 towers. And every single one of those towers houses residents that are over 55 years of age. So it's pretty atrocious.
Yeah.
Like it's
Well, there
pretty
was that
disgusting.
court case that like comrades in VS and
Yeah.
I think some Greens people as well were part of. Like there was like a kind of united sort of left case to try and stop it, and we lost, unfortunately. And so I guess now they just feel like fuck it,
Well,
Yeah.
so it was the announcement of the extra 7 was announced like a day or two after the appeal was announced.
Yeah,
So
okay.
they're like, nah, fuck you.
Ah,
Yeah.
so there
it's
is
a
going to be
real,
an appeal to that case.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just a real fuck you.
Yeah.
So
Bastard.
we're going to do something about it. We'll have some discussions to be had.
Yeah.
But yeah, stay tuned, I
It's
guess.
just so outrageous that they're doing this and this week the stat came out about how the government spends more money on basically propping
Tax
up
breaks for landlords
than they do on public housing.
Well, it's like
No, it's on everything.
social housing, rent assistance, and homelessness combined.
Combined.
Like all 3 of those things, which they spend a fair bit of money on. Like not enough, obviously, but like it's dwarfed by the amount that
Yeah.
they spend on tax breaks for
It's
landlords.
literally just giving money to
Yeah.
people who own multiple
Yeah,
houses.
and if you think about it as well, like rent assistance is that too. Like rent
It is.
assistance
Yeah.
is a subsidy, a government subsidy, a massive government subsidy for landlords.
Because unless you combine it with a cap on the rent,
Totally, yeah,
then
yeah.
all you're doing is saying, well, the market can afford an
Yeah.
extra
As-
whatever the rent assistance
if you
is.
raise the rent, I'll give you more money. That's
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Just makes you want to fucking scream.
And also, like another thing, like we're in the middle of a housing crisis. Demolishing public housing is a bad idea in that particular instance, let alone any other instance. But it's like these people, like the government's like, we're relocating these people. So it's like, well, where? Like, where are you going to put
Yeah,
them?
they just disperse them out.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's not enough fucking homes.
Yeah.
Evil, evil, evil.
The final thing I had listened to it this morning was the ABC doing its classic kind of earnest liberal milquetoast rubbish, interviewing this like NGO. I can't remember. I don't know their name. This NGO has done this AI research into the Australian Parliament,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they've submitted all the minutes or whatever. Like they've analyzed all the minutes of the speeches and everything, and they've done a statistical analysis, and they're basically saying like Parliament's a waste of time. And like the biggest thing they say wastes his time on is I think something called like political theatre or something, which
Like question time.
which is really funny because it is actually a political space. Like part of the point of Parliament is to like different worldviews and visions and ideologies to like fight each other. So it's just like how technocratic. Like if we were in there, like we wouldn't be like, oh, can you explain how the tax bracket of 18.3% is superior to 18.4%, like fuck that. Like part of it is inspiring people outside of Parliament. So there's a bit of that. But then it's
I like
also
how
like
one of the like slurs is hostility.
hostility,
You know,
yeah.
I think they waste their time on.
And all that hostility.
Bad behavior. There's a subset of bad behavior is hostility.
Yeah, and it's pretty much all directed at like Marine Faruqi and Lydia
Yeah.
Thorpe. Like everyone else is treated with kid gloves. Certainly bloody Pauline Hanson is.
Yeah.
Totally.
So it's this ridiculous story, and it's like the idea is, oh, wouldn't it be better if you had a parliament with no politics?
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be great?
yeah.
Maybe you
Yeah.
shouldn't even have elections. Maybe
No,
you just
yeah,
have like
yeah,
a
just-
board of
yeah,
directors,
yeah.
and the whole country could be managed in secret by committee.
It sounds great. Yeah.
By people appointed by Gina Reinhardt and the
Yeah.
Productivity Commission.
Yeah, I mean things would be efficient, smooth running.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
no red tape.
Yeah.
Yeah, there certainly wouldn't be any political theatre.
And there would be no hostility.
Not to each other anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe to the rest of us.
Riding out the party line.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Jasmine is the Students for Palestine National Co-convenor. Is that
She's
the
Duff.
title?
Duff.
Yeah, complicated title.
Jasmine Duff.
Jasmine Duff.
All right. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Jasmine was the person who was talking about how incredible Novak Djokovic was.
What? Did you tell people
That's
that?
appalling.
Oh my God. Okay, but have you guys ever watched
Yes,
the tennis?
often.
Okay,
He's a pig.
I haven't. And I hate him. I know that I'm meant to hate him, but I was watching it last night and I was like, oh my God, this is actually quite incredible.
You obviously don't understand
Anyway,
tennis
he
because
lost. He
so-
lost. Everyone
Yeah.
can be happy. There
Yeah.
you go. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I get that I hate him, but you know, you got to admire
Sure you do.
athleticism.
Jasmine, is this your first ever podcast? Or did you go on Red Flag Radio before?
I don't know.
Or any other like
I think I've
non-socialist
been on some
podcasts.
funny little non-socialist, good, nice non-socialist podcasts.
Like about theatre or something?
Circus.
God, there's a lot of things being thrown around here.
No, theatre and circus is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think.
All right, we're here. Jasmine's here for a very serious reason.
Well, yeah, so we wanted to get Jasmine on because I guess since last year when the so-called ceasefire was signed, people have stopped talking about what's actually going on inside Palestine. But over the last couple of weeks, there has been an increase in the amount of people that have just been murdered by the state of Israel. There's the biggest stealing of like land grab going on in the West Bank. And so we wanted to have a bit of a discussion about what the situation's like in Gaza and in the West Bank, but also the so-called peace plan, what's going on with that, and then also the fact that Herzog's arriving in Australia next week.
Yeah.
Appalling.
I kind of think like the whole point of the ceasefire was so that nothing could change, but the media could shut up. It was like a convenient kind of excuse, a signal to the world elite that, hey, like this has been uncomfortable for you. It's been uncomfortable for us. We're all going to like move on now. But like the fact that almost 450 people have died.
Yeah.
500.
It's a
More than
500 now. There you go. In the space of like, what, a month, 3 months?
Yeah.
Like that isn't like massively slower than what was going on during the so-called, you know, when the genocide was at its like ongoing way for like the year or so, the last part of the war. So nothing much has changed on the ground. It's just this sort of like convenient fiction.
Yeah, and the way that the media reports on it, like every time Israel like bombs a tent kind of thing, is like I saw an ABC article that was like, Israel is testing the ceasefire kind of thing.
Oh my God.
And it's like, that is just not testing anything.
They're testing the English language is what they're doing. Like
I saw someone like in a comment on Reddit somewhere that was like, if my neighbor kept throwing shit over my fence and then, you know, we came to an agreement that was like no more shit being thrown over my fence, and then my neighbor was like throwing more shit over my fence, I wouldn't be like, oh, that's, you know, testing our agreement.
or inviting Trump over or
Totally,
something.
yeah. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. There's a headline that... What?
Sorry, go on, Jazz, you missed it. Carry
Oh,
on.
no, I've
Trump
seen that
shot
video.
himself
Yeah, it's pretty
earlier.
bad. I have seen that, yeah. No, there's a phrase that Al Jazeera used that I think is really right to describe it, which is that the ceasefire exists only to invisibilize Palestinian suffering. And yeah, I think that just totally sums it up. I don't know if you guys saw the video of, there was a young man who in December, he married his wife who, you know, they'd been talking about it throughout the genocide. Their family had organized for them to marry. They had a small ceremony with family there, missing most of their family. He had 5 brothers who were killed, and so they were not there, obviously. 3 days after their wedding, a wall fell on their tent and she was killed while they were both in bed. And the videos that are going around are of him laying in their bed with her blood stain next to him, and he can't speak. He can't move. He's just laying there. And his family's spoken to media now and said there's just, we can't get to him. Like it seems like there's no way to communicate with him anymore because he's so destroyed by this.
Yeah.
It's just, and this is, things like this are happening literally every single day. On Saturday, 32 people were killed.
Yeah.
And some of them were killed because a helicopter flew over and gunned down into a tent. And so everyone in that tent, including children, were killed. Like this is just the kind of stuff that, you know, imagine if this happened in Australia. if this happened in Australia, would that be called testing anything? No, it would be called slaughter. It would be called the worst terrorist attack that's ever happened in this. This is the kind of stuff that is just the daily reality. And now, our Prime Minister wants to tour the guy responsible for this all through our country, speaking to people in town halls, speaking to people in big, lovely centres under lights. This is how it's very difficult to talk about or to find any words that can actually describe how just like despicable it is they're bringing this guy here.
Yeah. I mean, you think about what's happened over the course of the most recent iteration of this genocide. A report came out at the end of last year that over 10% of the population in Gaza have been like destroyed, and a huge number of bloodlines, like whole families have just been totally destroyed. Every single family member have been murdered, and that family line will no longer exists, can't continue.
Which is kind of the point of a genocide, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the thing about like the justification is always, Hamas broke the agreement or something. The media always reports that, like,
totally, yeah.
Israel, did whatever, killed 30 people. And in the statement, they said they were responding to Hamas breaching the ceasefire. And they never say like Hamas killing, 32 Israelis or bombing an Israeli hospital or killing people in Israeli tents. That doesn't happen. That's not happening. Like, it's like, Hamas maybe crossed over the yellow line, which means that Israel's occupying like 55 or something % of Gaza, which is now just never going to be given back. Like maybe that's what they mean by a breach, or maybe Hamas like didn't give up like the gun that day they promised to give up. Like this is not an equivalence whatsoever. This is an occupied people who are having their country and lives destroyed. And then Israel is just continuing the process and using their own existence basically as a prelude for that.
Just on that yellow line, because I don't know if people get how dystopian this thing is. It's like an episode of Black Mirror or something. The thing they're doing to construct this yellow line is that the Israeli military, one day you'll wake up and they will have dropped a yellow concrete block outside where you're staying. And if you are in proximity to that concrete block, you are now a legitimate target.
So it's not even like cross it. It's just if you're close to it.
If you're close to it.
Yeah, that's how they've always operated.
The thing that Ben Gvir said publicly was, we want mules and children to be shot if they go anywhere near these things. You're dropping people next to dropping these blocks next to people's tents. So how can they avoid being near them? But well, now you're a legitimate target. You can be killed. And it's that thing of always coming up with ways, like you said about Hamas, of making people into legitimate targets, which is actually one of Herzog's main roles for Israel. Like, it's a propaganda role, the president, and one of his main things is again and again hammering to the media why everyone in Gaza is a legitimate target.
There was a video of Bissan, the Palestinian filmmaker. She does really incredible citizen journalism on Instagram and TikTok or whatever. She did this video with some mainstream news source, maybe it was Channel 4 or something like that. But it's like, let me take you to the most amazing village in Palestine. And it's where she's from, the village that she's from. And they get in the car and they drive. And then she's like, oh, actually, this is the furthest I can take you. And she's standing next to one of the yellow blocks. Like, where she's from is behind the yellow line. She can't get back to it. And you just think about how many people have been totally internally displaced. And the other thing about the yellow line is that all of the arable land in Gaza is behind it. So the forms of self-sufficiency that people have, the growing of food and vegetables, has been taken away from them. And so it is the classic thing that Israel does when they start wars and genocidal campaigns against the people of Palestine. They murder them, they destroy their homes, and then they take more land. And that is the dynamic of these wars that they do.
And then the buffer zone, so it's like, because Gaza had the same thing before the war. Gaza had a border, obviously, and then there was a buffer zone of a few hundred meters where you weren't allowed to go. And remember, in the 2019 Great March of Return, people were being shot, not for going into Israel, for being in Gaza by getting too close to the fence. And you're not allowed to do that because that's Israeli security buffer, they call it. And so now they've taken more than half of Gaza and the buffer just continues, You just have a buffer on a buffer on a buffer. And this is how it's like, the occupied part of Gaza is meant to be Palestinian, but Israel says that's a buffer. But then the buffer needs a buffer. And then one day they'll put new blocks and new blocks and new blocks, and then,
Yeah, and on the Great March of Return, during that there was no blocks, and so I remember, you could see the invisible border because you could see where all of the bodies were falling, and people were being shot in the back. People were just bodies were falling down. Well, that's what the border is. That's how Israel operates and has for decades and decades. And now, I mean, one of the other things about the borders now is that there's aid trucks lining up on them.
Yeah.
There's all this talk as if all this aid is just going in when Israel, not only are they not letting in anywhere enough trucks, but they're also restricting the types of aid people can access by saying certain things are able to be used as weapons, like water purification tablets. So you have disease spreading across Gaza,
Oh my God.
but they're saying we're not going to let in tablets, but also the needed equipment to rebuild infrastructure of water purification across Gaza, because this is all apparently weaponry, right? Meanwhile, they're trying to do these mass vaccination, not Israel, but charities are trying to do a mass vaccination program against things like polio, because polio came back. These, medieval diseases have come back. They're trying to vaccinate for them when you can't even get in what's needed to mean you have clean water. Well, what's the point even of, the vaccination? It's just like, just let the water in. You won't have to, it's just,
I saw a video of the Rafah crossing, which was meant to be opened a while ago, which they opened like a couple of hours after killing 32 people. And it was just hundreds and hundreds of ambulances that they were just not letting through. Yeah. Just ambulance.
Yeah. I mean, the opening of the crossing is like, it's a sham. It's designed again to check a box like, oh, look, world media, remember how we said we'd do this thing? We're doing this thing. Everything's back to normal. But yeah, the restrictions are continuing. Like, this is a long-standing policy of the Israeli government. Like, after Kaslet 2008-9, they said you're not allowed to have concrete because concrete can be used for tunnels. Who knows what you can do with concrete. And it's like, by that logic, you just shouldn't allow anything people can need to survive. But then the peace plan that's sort of like been talked about now is starting to take shape.
Did you see the map that they showed at Davos? It's like, you want to talk about squeezing a population. And the thing about, was it Kushner or Trump who said the thing about the Riviera of the Middle East? Like, they literally, that's the redevelopment plan that they're...
The map looks like the Vegas of the Middle East. It's like these beachfront resorts. And then one of the things that journalists keep pointing out about it is the total absence of Palestinians. And the whole concept is you build it as this, concrete and glass kind of luxury apartments. And then you force Palestinians basically into, open air prisons.
Camps. They call them camps.
Camps, my bad. Actually, I think they call them something like living facilities, like special living facilities or something like that. They've always got a crazy Orwellian name. But in these, it's like, constant surveillance, all of your biometric data given to Israel, calorie counting and only letting people access exactly the amount of food that will stop them from starving to death, but will keep them on the brink of starvation and needing to rely on their prison guards to have food coming in. Yeah.
I mean, that's been the state of the Palestinians.
Yeah, they've been doing that for a bit. Yeah.
Since 48. I mean, across the board, like, it applies to finance, it applies to water, it applies to electricity, it applies to visas, marriage certificates, like food, and not just in Gaza, but in the West Bank as well. Like, basically nothing exists in Palestine without Israel signing off on it, which is why, we talk about apartheid and so on, because it's not like there's two countries operating. There's one country that controls the whole area, and then the people who were there initially, the indigenous population, are just totally fucked over. And you're never going to have liberation as long as that setup exists. There's not going to be a two states that's equal. There's already one. There's always sort of been one, really. And there's only going to be one. The question is it an Israeli imperialist outpost, or is it a democratic place for all the people of the region to live in collectivity?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was only a month ago where they introduced the death penalty exclusively for Palestinians. Like,
it's part of why all of the, moments that a two-state solution is raised always is basically about just papering over the reality of what Israel is doing to Palestine. Like, it's a fig leaf to cover over, the constant. I mean, even until October 7, the calorie counting, for example, was constant. That was just how Gaza was run. Well, a society where you have two states where one of them calorie counts the other and only allows people to, access food on this basis. Like, but our politicians are totally happy to spout this stuff because Israel is this very, very important ally of, America and Australia. It's totally central to assuring Western domination of the Middle East. And so you come up with all sorts of rhetorical flourishes to justify supporting it, justify arming it, and, sometimes wanting to do that with a little bit of a liberal gloss. And that's the entire purpose of the two-state solution. Like, that's all it has ever been. Yeah.
And then meanwhile, in the West Bank, like, there's just story after story of atrocities going on. A friend of ours' daughter she's Israeli.
She just come back yesterday.
Oh, she just come back. Yeah. Well, maybe have you spoken to her? Yeah. Well, she was in the West Bank doing sort of community defense type stuff that like the very, very small Israeli left sometimes does, where they go to Palestinian villages and put their bodies on the line to try and shield them. And she was saying they could hear the next door village, people being raped, murdered, expelled, having their houses burnt down. And this other village where she was staying, they knew they were coming for them, and so they were just preparing as best they could. But just the horror of it and just the trauma of being in that space, and yeah, this is just happening on the daily. And initially the West Bank was divided into 3, Area C, B and A. And C was meant to be Israeli controlled and basically Palestinians had no rights. B was meant to be a fusion and then A was meant to be, but Israel's just they've basically got all of C now. Now they were dealing with B and A, and so the spaces of Palestinian, not even autonomy, that's the wrong word, but like semblance of pretense of self-existence, self-determination are getting squeezed and squeezed on the map. And that's a very much a deliberate policy by the Israelis. So like the genocide, the colonization, the imperialism continues absolutely unabated.
Yeah. It's also, the media just basically barely reports on it, but the scale of the expulsions in the West Bank, it's the largest scale expulsion since 1967, happened last year, all of them. So 40,000 people were expelled from some of the main camps. And part of what they did was went in and changed the landscape of the camps. So they widened roads so that tanks will always be able to access these places. They're preventing people from going back. But the concept is if people ever were to get back into to live in these squalid refugee camps, then you're guaranteed to be able to roll tanks through them anytime that you'd like. They made them much more kind of accessible to the IDF. But then, 40,000 people expelled. And it's kind of, that's just been lost underneath the scale of the genocide in Gaza. But if the Gaza genocide didn't exist, that would be the worst atrocity that Israel has carried out in generations.
Exactly. And that's not Hamas run. They didn't do October 7, all the bullshit excuses we get for like why Israel has to do what it does. The West Bank is it is dominated by a pro-Western reactionary dictatorship, Mahmoud Abbas and his mates in Fatah. So there's no political excuse, but they don't need one. They're Israel. I mean, they'll use whatever they can, but like it's all ultimately cynical. I mean, Hamas was funded by Netanyahu. Like I said, no money can get into Gaza or the West Bank without the Israelis signing off on it. So all the aid that was being given to Hamas was going by the Israeli government, and they signed off on it. So like the idea that they don't control the strings of everything that happens in these places, that they're so implacably hostile to whatever. They will use anyone and anything for their purposes, but they will discard them as well. And like they use Yasser Arafat to calm down the first Intifada, and then they basically kill him. So that's how they operate.
It's what this technocratic committee is looking like as well. So they've put together the kind of insane Board of Peace, which is like, is it the UN? Except the only people in it are Kazakhstan and Belarus. Like there's that, which is the crazy one with Tony Blair and
Trump.
Albo
could be on it.
And Albo and the Pope Leo is apparently big questions. Yeah, the Pope might be on the Board of Peace.
So we'll have to do another Pope themed episode.
Well, that would make it pretty good, wouldn't it? I mean, he's a pretty reasonable Pope.
Oh, you have a good relationship.
Is he like a 4 out of 10 Pope?
Yeah. I mean, he's worse than the last one by all accounts.
Seems like a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. No, but what I was going to say is there's the Board of Peace, which is more kind of famous, but then, there's this technocratic committee that's meant to sit below it. And it's really made up of Palestine Authority, like those types, Fatah types. And these are all the people who, a lot of them are bureaucrats who have served the PA for years, who have been part of, one of the main missions of the PA is to preserve the security of the Israeli state from Palestinians. They've been working for that And now these are the people who are going to be running Gaza. So there's this idea that, well, if it's in Palestinian hands, but these are the Palestinian hands that are, handpicked by the United States, the type of people who've been running the West Bank for Israel.
Or been living in America, gone to Harvard, did a engineering degree or something, and then will be parachuted back to be good governance, you know. Yeah.
And then they're the people in charge of carrying out this insane Jared Kushner, luxury plan. It's just an absolute, disaster. So but maybe the Pope can solve
maybe the Pope
it. Maybe the Pope will solve it.
Christian good values and stuff. Let's talk about Australia. Like, so Herzog's coming here. You've been really involved in spearheading the national response, Jazz. Tell us about what do you think's going on? Like, why is Albo doing this from a movement perspective, and what are we kind of doing about it?
I mean, in terms of why, I think the big thing is they're bringing him here on a propaganda tour and to try and roll back all of the victories that the Palestine movement has had in this country. So you think about, Israel is this core ally, core state for, domination and so on, and they want the Australian population to be behind it. Well, our movement has managed to win 58% of the population to the position that this important ally is genocidal, 57% of the population to the position that we need sanctions. And, you've had Palestine Action Group defeat Chris Minns in the courts over things like where march routes can be. And so, I think the Australian government is wanting to press back on all of that, press back on the movement and re-legitimize the Israeli state, give its president a chance to do this huge speaking tour, justifying what they've been doing and presenting themselves as this kind of important friend of our government and of our people and so on.
Sort of feels like one of those things that can backfire. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's the plan.
But it's like what they've done is given the Palestine movement, which has continued to go on protest. We've had good demonstrations. Like there was 1,500 people who came out in Melbourne on Sunday, protests in Sydney. But it's not the height.
It's a different tempo,
of what it was in the midst of the pre so-called ceasefire days. They've invited this guy who has called Palestinians things like cockroach animals that need to be killed, etc. There's
no innocent civilians in Gaza.
Yeah. That's his main line,
No innocent civilians. They've invited this guy here. I feel like this can give a bit of a focus point and a revival to the Palestine movement.
Totally. I mean, people can't believe it. No one really knows who he is because the president is not the main thing. It's as Jazz said, it's a ceremonial thing. But like as soon as you explain it, and the media will explain it because he's a very important guy. You don't just bring a president in under the radar. No one notices. Like it's going to be international news.
Well, already they're all covering the fact that there's going to be mass protests when he comes here. I mean, the big thing I think is that anyone who cares at all about the genocide in Gaza just has to be in the streets on the 9th. So it's Monday when he's going to arrive. His plane will touch down. And we're calling for mass protests all over the country. And we've had all these meetings to plan that. And there's all of these different, it's not just major cities. It's like Margaret River, Bathurst, these kind of places.
The big merino.
If you live near the biggest sheep in this country, you have to be in the streets. It's just like everyone everywhere has to march. Also, nighttime protests are the best kind of protests. Like it's just like, you imagine it's like nighttime.
Actually, it won't be night at all. It's summer.
5:30, it's summer. Oh.
It'll be like broad daylight.
Yeah, but we'll be
out
there for a while. We're going to stay in the streets until the night. Until the night comes.
My first demonstration for Palestine was a nighttime demonstration in 2014. I think that was called Operation Protective Edge. Was that one?
Oh yeah,
and
there's been a few,
it was pouring rain. Like I've never been at a protest with so much rain, but there were still like thousands of people out. But it's like it's interesting because you can see the way that consciousness has shifted around the question of Palestine comparing 2014 to now.
Totally.
Like we could have a demonstration of a couple thousand when there was a bombing campaign and that would last for a week or two and then it would just be the socialists and like Palestinian people, like small numbers of people who would come out. Now this is, like you said, 50% whatever of people who think that what's going on is wrong. there has been a seismic political shift that's
Totally.
taken place.
Yeah.
I saw in
Massive.
America at the anti-ICE protests, there was like blocks of pro-Palestine people carrying
Oh,
flags
really?
and stuff in pretty much every city.
Oh,
That's
so
awesome.
So
nice.
it's like it's
Lovely.
become like this definitional thing for what it means to be left wing, which I think is
Yeah.
amazing. So Albo wants to push back, but I think that there's gonna be a backlash. I think there will be
Totally.
it'll be his own goal in the end. But one of the really dangerous things about it is that what he's trying to do is associate Israel with Bondi
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
same way that people did with the Holocaust.
Mm.
And it worked with the Holocaust. Like a lot of people thought, shit, that was really bad correctly. It was a terrible, like historically unprecedented and never since repeated kind of crime, the way the Holocaust was carried out. So the imperialists used that as ideological justification for Israel. They said, look, we've done this bad thing. No, we're not going to welcome any Jewish refugees here. We don't want them. You know, they're disgusting, but they should have their own country and that should be somewhere over there where there's oil, you know? So that happened then. That, in the long run, set in train anti-Semitic developments because suddenly this country existed that claimed to represent Jews and started doing all this terrible shit, but it was a minority thing. Now, a lot of people care about Palestine. Bringing this guy on the basis of he represents Bondi to Australia at this time is disgusting because it's putting people in a really difficult position unless you're very sophisticated in your thinking or at least determined not to be falling into traps. Like, what are you doing? Either you have to go along with it and therefore support Israel, or there's this dangerous thing, which I've seen online, of people rejecting, who really cares about Bondi? It's just Zionist propaganda, whatever. Rubbish. Like, but that's what they want. They want people to be cowed into submission, that you are not allowed to protest this guy if you know, and so we have to resist that. And we
I
have
just
to do
think
so
most
clearly.
left-wing people, though, see through all of that. Like, I think people who are left-wing and who've been out in the streets for 2 years, everyone who's protested in the last 2 years has been called an anti-Semite. But also, millions of young people have woken up every morning and watched children being massacred in Gaza. So people have had to learn how to stand up to that kind of rhetoric. And yeah, I just think that the browbeating they're trying to do, clearly it is having an effect. But at the same time, I think that there are, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people across this country who can see through it and who are looking for a lead and who actually do want to keep standing up for Gaza and keep on standing against what Israel's doing. And this moment, you know, like this is history. When he flies into this country, that is a moment that will be written in textbooks for decades and decades and decades. This is like we're part of and watching history, and we've got to just grab it and be part of it. And we want everyone to, you know, treat it as this is the next Harbour Bridge moment. You know, this is the next moment where everyone has to be out there in the streets. And what this is recorded as in history has to be the moment when, you know, the anti-war movement in Australia rose against Israel's president. That's got to be how it's written down in the future. Well, all of us right now, we decide that. We have control over it, whether that is what's written or not. So people have to do it.
The thing I've been thinking about is like historical, what's the word? Antecedent. Is that the word?
Antecedents, yeah.
Anyways, is when Germany invaded the Shah of Iran and there were the huge student protests in response to that.
Yeah.
Oh, LBJ in Australia.
Oh.
And there's all of the, LBJ came during the Vietnam War. And there's all of in Canberra, like people were like throwing themselves in front of his car.
Nice.
I don't know if we're going to get to throw ourselves in front of this guy. I mean, he'd probably run us over.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
They'll be throwing
And then like
grenades.
other
Don't do
people
that.
would shoot you down. Yeah, like anyway.
Totally.
Anyway, but we will be protesting.
Yeah, we're going to shut the whole country down, basically, is the goal. Like every city, the rallies are planned for like earlier than sometimes at a night rallies. Like, so we want people coming home from work. We want you to join us.
Coming straight from work.
Yeah, straight from work. If you're
The protest can be a home for you.
if you're
but-
avoiding us, well, you're not going to go home because you're going to be trapped in the city. That's the idea. Like, we're shutting everything down. It cannot be that the president of this country that's committed genocide is just touring Australia and everything's normal. It's not like that. It's not going to be like that. So I think it's very exciting that this mass protest has taken off in so many places, but it is a bit of a test, you know, like because the government would be expecting backlash, but the question is how much, you know, do we make it unworkable or is it like, minor irritant, but everything functioned normally? And as Jazz said, like all our listeners, all of you, all of us, we will determine which one of those plays out, you know? Yeah.
So everybody should get there.
Riding out the party line.
Guys, there's been a lot of really bad polls that have come out recently.
Terrible.
There's this guy Kosamaris. He used to be
Labour
quite
Party.
important in the
He's a real
Labour
smug
Party.
guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's really smug.
I had a coffee with him one time.
Did you?
What did
Yeah.
he say?
I mean, he was nice.
But people are just nice to you.
Yeah. People are like charming.
When you get to a certain level of fame, you get a bit of that from everyone, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never experienced it, but
Like, people are so nice to Geordie and so mean to me.
That is true.
yeah, don't look up Monica on Twitter.
People say so many mean things about me. And it's like, oh, fuck you. No, I'm joking.
She's actually a really nice person.
Sometimes. But anyways, yes, the polls are bad. So there's been this.
And the Liberals are just like falling apart. And
yeah.
the Nationals.
I don't really care about that part of it.
Yeah, that's sort of the yin to the yang.
The yin to the
Yeah.
But it's like this process seems to be happening all around the world. Kosamaris, so this poll, he did a bunch of polling.
Yeah, he runs a firm called Redbridge,
And
which does the polling.
they show that Australia has just been behind the curve that has been happening internationally, which is
We're
the
catching up.
historic centre right has collapsed, and in its place is the
Fascism.
radicalised, scary right.
Yeah.
In
Far
this
right.
case, you know what?
I find Hanson very scary on one
I've been
level.
thinking about this and I just think it's so unfair because
Yeah.
why the fuck is the picture of fascism in Australia fucking Pauline Hanson? Like,
Yeah.
this woman has cursed my entire existence. She got big in the 90s
Yeah.
and has just continued, and she just, like, she's got no charisma. And
Yeah.
yet, like, she is the face of this.
It's like the negative hero, the anti-hero or something.
No,
like,
but like anti-heroes like Batman.
Oh.
Yeah,
like
I don't actually really know what that phrase means.
Anti-heroes are like meant to be at least somewhat relatable and like have
I
a
think she is to her people. She's this like middle class, like badly spoken idiot.
it's just like, imagine being like drawn into like racist fascist politics by someone who cooks a steak on a toaster
sandwich
plate.
press.
Like,
Yeah.
that's my analysis for this section.
Yeah, I know. I mean, on one level, it's been good. Like, one of the reasons we're so far behind is the far right here is so poorly organized, or has been so poorly organized, so fragmented. Hanson is a terrible, leader. She doesn't know how to work with others, how to galvanize anything, build any kind of operation. And that's really held her back. But as well as Liberals, being very effectively co-opting her message. But yeah, now that's turning around. I mean, just
what do people think about, like, because it's like they always talk about the rise of the populist right. I just think the populist sort of phrasing around this stuff is not even really that useful.
No, because they're not particularly populist.
Like, Pauline Hanson is not a populist in the sense that she argues for, like, oh, well, white working class people should have higher wages and better,
Yeah, I
There's
wish I
no-
brought the leaflet I got because it actually had more economic stuff on it than I was expecting. But I can't fucking remember. I don't have it on me. So,
Yeah, but also like we were talking in the group chat about like she's been going around like they're starting branches and stuff, and it's like she's been posting photos of the branches, and the people in those branches, those meetings are not impacted by economic issues whatsoever.
No,
like
a lot
these
of them
are
not.
wealthy, middle class, older people.
Because
Yeah.
there was an article written by Max Chandler Mather in Deep Cut News
This
about
morning.
Why the Greens need to get better at responding to all of this stuff. But in that article, he does the same thing that people do, which is make this argument that the reason why people are going over to the side of Hanson and One Nation is because they're economically deprived, their lives aren't getting better and stuff like that. But is that really the case for the people that are turning, like all the people that previously voted? So
Yeah.
we're saying there's a collapse in the support for the Liberal Party. They're the people who are now supporting One Nation. This is not an economically depressed section of the population.
Totally.
Like,
Look at this poll from literally 23 hours ago. This is federal voting intention in a metro regions. This is like, this is where the Greens have their seats. It's like they're on par with the Greens. Like that is not an economically, these people aren't voting on like, the housing crisis or whatever.
So what are they on?
15%. Tied with the Greens.
The Greens poll 15% in inner metro. Oh, I guess nationally.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just Melbourne.
This is, sorry, federal voting intention.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I think the thing is we're going to have to get more data on this. We don't know exactly who these people are. Obviously, the core of their constituency is not, the absolute down and outs, but But as they grow big, they have to penetrate somewhere. And so there's not enough kind of wealthy people out there to be polling at, 30%, while the Liberals are still on 20. If the Liberals are wiped out, you could get 30% and be pretty wealthy. They must be penetrating other layers for sure. And that's especially the case when people are so, like, I think one of the arguments he makes that is right is the more people are not organized in unions, they don't know what struggle looks like. They're not part of anything. They're just atomized people living in the suburbs. It's sort of on one level, your class matters less when you're not acting as one. It still matters, but it's less important. And so what was the stat he gave? Like 4% or 5% of Australians have gone on strike last year or something?
Is this in the deep cut one?
Yeah. It was like 5% of Australian workers went on strike last year, which is like so low.
And only 13% of people are in their unions.
Yeah. So it's like the experience of struggle is just not making class a very salient thing. So I think some of that stuff means that she can have an audience where she wouldn't have.
Yeah, that's true.
But I reckon we should start by just recapping like the crisis of the Liberals and the Nationals, because it sets the scene. Yeah. So like they've been shifting to the right for ages. And part of the issue is they don't have connections to young people, and their demographic is aging. And the sort of like, what's the average age of Liberal Party branch member? Like 85 or something. And then that was made way worse when the Teals won, right? Because the Teals took over really important seats. There's a really good article in Red Flag by Tom, like not just, and these seats aren't just important because they're like rich people, but they're like the place where the elite live, the capitalist class and their advisors, spokespeople and so on. Yeah. All the media, like all the media live in Bondi, places like that. So the Teals have won all those places. Yeah. And it means the Liberals have just lost their connection to these organic networks of fundraisers, of spokespeople, the talented, like Allegra Spender, like she could be a Liberal.
Yeah, so they don't have people who can be the next leader of the Liberal Party and carry them into a new era, or the people that can be the charismatic local member who stays in their position for decades and decades because they're like the king of the town or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like Malcolm Turnbull's, Malcolm Turnbull was a multi-millionaire, probably, I don't know if he was a billionaire, but he was like a very wealthy figure who got parachuted into the Liberal Party because it just felt like that was, his right and his home and these were his people.
And he was right.
Yeah, they are and they were. But these
Josh
days,
Frydenberg as well.
Yeah, exactly. But these days, like that layer of people, unless they're very right, which there are still very right, really wealthy people, a lot of them don't feel as comfortable because, maybe they believe in climate change. Like they can afford to, They can afford to have like nice insulation on their mansions. And,
or they don't mind gay people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or maybe they are gay, So that's the thing. But the point is as well, like even when the moderates were more, like did have moderate leaders, like people like Malcolm Turnbull, Susan Ley now, like it's not as if these leaders have been able to lead from the center, like Malcolm Turnbull, were you around then? Yeah. Like marriage equality. We were campaigning for marriage equality, the most milquetoast of reforms. Malcolm Turnbull was pro marriage equality. Everyone knew it before he became the leader. He becomes the leader and then he does nothing. He blocks it. He argues against it, just like the Labour Party did. And it wasn't until, who did it? Who did the plebiscite?
Well, it was forced by the Liberals.
Yeah, but it was like Abbott was the one who Tony Abbott. So it was like, it was just crazy. Like these moderates, and then now Susan Ley, a moderate supposedly, oversaw them abandoning the sort of meaningless climate targets. Yeah. Like this is not centrist leadership. This is just, you might as well just have a far right leader anyway. So this is the direction of the party. And there's, even despite this, there's been a fragmentation on the right. Yeah. Like, I don't know in your seats, but like in Thomastown, the far right got like 17% at the last federal election, but it was just fragmented. Yeah. There was like 7 different far right parties. Yeah. So none of them felt very important. And I think VS came 4th, but, or maybe 3rd, no 4th. But still, like if you add them all up, it's significant. Yeah, yeah. But now Hanson's starting to hoover that all together. Totally. And it's starting to concern them.
And that can create a much bigger threat because previously, if you've got the Clive Palmers and the Reignite Democracies and the whoever the heavers, like they can't make any gains. But if you have one Hanson-backed candidate, they can actually become more of a threat. So that crystallization into one place, that's the thing that has historically been not that possible in Australian right-wing politics. And the Liberals have more been able to bring in that politics and make the Liberal Party the house of that kind of politics. So Amy Ramakis has been putting out a lot of useful stuff, I think, around this question, because there's this historical amnesia that Howard defeated the politics of Pauline Hanson, but that's not true.
Yeah.
What Howard did was said, oh, she's a bit.
He gave it a big cuddle.
Yeah.
He absorbed it.
Oh, that's some interesting politics. Yes, we also hate refugees and Asian people and all the rest of it. And
Indigenous people, black armband view of history.
Yeah, exactly. So the Liberals were able to incorporate that politics, but the Liberals are unable to do this now because of that straddling that they're trying to do between these teal seats in the city and these backwards reactionary areas in the outer suburbs.
I don't reckon it's that they're trying to straddle. I think they're just they're trying to do their best, but I think it's more that the world has changed. And like the far right politics is no longer like a marginal thing on the right. It's actually, there's been a polarization on the right. And so people don't want like the Timu version of fascism. Like, if you're going to vote for like someone who's totally racist, totally against immigration, just thinks Labour Party is communist, well, why not vote for like, the real strong one?
Totally.
The one who's never sold out, because Liberals have been in heaps that, like every party, they compromise, they moderate, whatever.
Yeah.
Like Hanson's never, been anywhere in power.
Yeah. It's a really good point that Tom Bramble makes in the article. It's like that Pauline Hanson is really like One Nation has never really had a chance to disappoint anyone because they've never held power or tried to moderate or compromise or whatever. And also they don't have to engage with every single, like a party in power has to engage with every single political debate or policy decision that is on the table at the moment. Like One Nation can pick and choose which debates they get involved with, and we know which ones they will get involved with.
Well, they'll make everything about that, right? Immigration.
Totally.
You're upset about this, that, the other. It's all about this.
But when it comes to wages or whatever, they can just be silent.
Yeah.
So then the Liberals are in a mess, but then also so are the Nationals.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about them, didn't we? Like, they're so farcical.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not even on some of the polls. They're just other now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, on their own terms, they're just they're an extremely minor party.
Yeah, but they always have been. Yeah.
Well, hopefully the Socialist Party nationally in a few years
can get bigger than the Nationals. We can aim higher than that. Let's broaden our horizons, please.
It'll take a lot of work to get like 5% nationally. But yeah, so they're in even more direct competition because the Liberals do have some seats, and part of the thing is the Liberals lost all their inner city ones.
Yeah.
So now they're disproportionately regional and rural, which means like even for the Liberals, the One Nation's a threat. But like the Nationals are like entirely, obviously that. So they're in direct competition, which is sort of why the Nationals like have spat the dummy repeatedly now, like first on the, wonderful climate targets of 2050, never, never, fantasy fairyland when bushfires have burnt down Melbourne and Sydney. Maybe we'll have net zero then. But then like also the hate speech laws and whatever.
Yeah.
And so they're playing this tricky game where like they need to, their main argument against One Nation is we're the party of power. And so you've got to be with us if you want to get things done. That's Matt Canavan's main argument. It's not like I disagree on principle with anything that she says. It's more like we're the only party that can achieve change. But the danger with that is as soon as you stop being the party that can achieve change, well, then why not just go for the pure one?
Yeah.
So that's sort of what's happening to them now. They're being totally eclipsed. And yeah, it looks like could be a total wipeout of the next election unless something drastic changes.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of different variation, I guess, between what section of society supports One Nation and all the rest of it. So from that Redbridge polling, it indicates younger people are less likely to be supportive of Hanson and co and, tend towards more a left-wing position. Labor are pretty steady at 33, 35 sort of percent support. But there is a divide between Omar's generation and mine and Johnny's generation.
Yeah.
But it is crazy because like one of the things that sort of we have felt for the last little while is that Gen Xers, because life, it's not necessarily getting better. It's not that easy to buy a house, whatever. They can be a bit more open to Gen Xers.
No, they're good.
No, they're not.
Look at
No,
the
I mean, like
polls.
they're economically good.
Yeah.
No, they're not
That's
struggling with housing. They got it.
Yeah.
They got in early.
Well, and you can see in the polls, it's like 30.
Totally.
There's a 35% support for Pauline Hanson in it, and then millennials and Gen Z are more likely to support, Greens or Labor. So yeah, it's like there's this divide that sort of exists on age lines, but that reflects, I think, something about what we were talking about before, which is that Pauline Hanson and co, they don't actually appeal to these younger people who are finding it hard to get about their lives. They're appealing to people who want to protect capital gains tax and
totally, yeah, franking credits and shit.
Yeah, and want to go back to how society was. Like, things were so great 20, 30 years ago, before migrants corrupted it. Like, younger people tend to have less of that. On the other hand, like there are still young people who are supporting Liberals and
That's right.
Hanson.
Totally.
And I think it's class, over age.
Yeah.
But then, so it's urban. Like, there's so many factors, like urbanization. Like, young people move out of the country, move into cities, and tend to live in the inner parts and then the most outer parts where they can afford. So they get more experience of mixing and cultural melding and so on. But then there's also like younger people are less likely to own a house, so that shapes people's consciousness. But then the interesting thing about boomers is where like baby boomers are actually the most pro-labor.
But then also the most pro
One Nation.
One Nation, yeah. So that reflects like people who are old enough to remember Whitlam and the kind of the more social democratic traditions of the ALP, and then also just right wing conservative people. So I think there's a limit to generational analysis. Like you've really got to drill down and see like the social economics and geographical stuff. And
one of the things that you pointed out that's interesting is the way that there is a real dislike of Donald Trump. So 67% of the population are unfavorable towards Trump, but yet there's this growing support for Hanson.
Yeah, 38% support for her in the last poll, in that poll.
So, I mean, I guess there's a whole picture of Trump as this buffoon, but then Hanson is buffoonish as well. So there's this important residual or like active dislike of Trump that exists, which you can build on. But it doesn't, people don't seem to kind of get that Hanson is actually the reflection of those politics.
Yeah, it's a point that I think Max makes in his article is like, the rise of this like kind of far right vote is an anti-establishment vote. And Trump is seen as the establishment, I guess, because he is the president of the US. So like an anti-Trump sentiment makes sense at the same time as a pro-Pauline Hanson sentiment, in my opinion. And I think maybe Max's, I don't know. But like meanwhile, while all of this is happening, and they are like Pauline is not anti-establishment, like at all. But
she was in the Liberal Party. She was
totally, yeah. Like this is like it's a ridiculous, like it's a misconception. But she is perceived as an anti-establishment. Like all these kind of fringe parties on the right, and One Nation, which is no longer fringe, I guess, are perceived that way, even if that's not the case. And then, so while all of this is happening, the Greens are positioning themselves as like, we like Larissa Waters did an article on the weekend, which we'll talk about in the next episode properly, positioning themselves as like, vote for us and we'll get deals done with Labor. Like that's their positioning.
What people want,
yeah, which is like
sensible
not
policy.
Totally. It's like, no, we're not arguing for something radically different to what the establishment offers or whatever. They're like, actually, we are the establishment. So yeah, it's just obviously that's not going to work very well, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, there's a contradiction, right? Going back to the Trump thing, like it's similar in Europe. Like in Europe, Trump is despised, but Europe has a strong far right. So how do you explain that? And partly it's anti-Americanism. So there's a legacy of, on the right as well as the left of sort of nationalist opposition to Trump or to America. And in France, you have Gaullism. In Australia, the Labour movement was always, the left wing of it at least was anti-American and sort of anti-imperialist in that kind of way. So I think it's easier to be anti a foreign figure than anti a local figure, So there's just that nationalist kind of lens that softens people up. So I think it's definitely in our interest when we're talking about Trump and Hanson to kind of connect those two things and call out the pseudo, like the economic stuff is to call it out. Like she doesn't care, but she doesn't stand up for working class people. She doesn't believe in any of that shit. And then also at the same time be calling out the racism and the discrimination. I mean, Yeah, like it's there's so many factors to it, but like one of the worst things I think, and you know, you've talked a lot about this in your previous career and ongoing career as a housing advocate, is like the mainstream media's narrative is actually the same as Pauline Hanson's about housing.
Totally.
Everyone agrees there's not enough houses. Everyone agrees there's not enough. And there are actually enough houses, but everyone agrees there's not enough.
Yeah.
And what's the logic and what's the conclusion of that is that, well, either we build more, which is the industry's take.
Mhm.
Oh, you should just give more subsidies to construction companies. Well, the other logical conclusion is, well, why don't we like slow down the intake? It's actually a logical response. If you accept that there's not enough houses, you know, from a purely capitalist perspective, we would obviously never accept this, but it seems logical. But the truth is there's not a shortage of housing. There's enough housing for everyone in Australia. But no one argues that because it doesn't suit the interests of big business. And so they've actually created the fertile soil for this narrative to be taken up.
Yeah, because once you acknowledge that, you know, this is an issue of distribution rather than, you know, supply or whatever, you have to acknowledge that, the market can't provide or isn't an efficient distributor of anything. And then there's no reason to make that a distinct argument for housing compared to everything else.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's a class thing, right? Why don't we take the houses off these people?
Totally.
Well, none of the political parties want to target the wealthy.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think there is, so in Australia, there is a catch up taking place, a reflection of what happened in the United Kingdom, where this motley crew of far right people replace the traditional Conservative Party. And it's it's bringing in a huge amount of racist, anti-immigrant politics. It's connecting with a street movement as well. Like we saw on Invasion Day, Hanson is totally connected to the March for Australia.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a really important role for a radical left in both the UK and in Australia, where we need to be the ones that are saying everything that's going on in society, all this shit, actually these parties all have an interest in maintaining it. And we need a working class political response to it. If there was a growth in working class struggle, in unionisation, in workplace activity, in strikes, that actually could start to rebuild a force in society that can push back against it. I think that there's never going to be a situation where, you know, the Greens in Australia can represent a radical political alternative to what's going on, because again, they accept a whole bunch of the status quo of politics here. So we need a radical left revival that says, well, actually the divide and rule scapegoat tactics only benefit the rich. If you want something that benefits ordinary people, you need working class socialist politics.
That's right. And you see around the world, there's like these desperate attempts to keep the right out by like all the establishment parties sort of blocking together, right? And the German situation now is the most extreme, I think, where it's like Labour and Conservatives and the Greens. Are the Greens in it currently? Maybe not. But like previously it was, you know, so it's just like there's this weird constellations of parties constantly being put together in order to exclude the far right. And all that really does is discredit all those parties, right?
I mean, it would make sense that the Greens in Germany are in it.
I think they're not in this version.
But they're like the most right-wing
But it
Greens.
used to be. It was the traffic light.
It was in the previous version,
Traffic light thing, right?
And then like in Spain and Portugal, the radical left was in a government with the social democratic parties, the socialist parties of those countries. You know, again, left of centre, moderately, fairly ineffectual governments.
Yeah.
And
it's
all that does.
Desperation.
And all that does is like stave off the inevitable. So, look, we stopped the fascists for a few years, but then they just grow and grow and grow in opposition. Yeah. And so you get them anyway. So you can't actually deal with the problems that lead to fascism within capitalism. You can fight them. And I think building radical movements is part of that. But you can't actually resolve it by being part of the coalitions that govern our capitalist societies, because those coalitions, the other parties are not interested in dealing with the root causes. They're not going to redistribute wealth. They're not going to nationalize big industries. They're not going to house all the homeless. They're not going to massively change the discourses around immigration, race, and minorities, and so on. Break the US alliance, stop supporting Israel. Like, these are all the things that lead to racism, discrimination, whatever. Only an anti-capitalist party can do that electorally, or advocate for that electorally. And then, you know, you also need to organize, right? Because elections themselves are not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like at the end of the day, the far right organise everywhere, like on the streets and in Parliament, and so we need to fight them wherever they organise. But like also on the thing like about staving them off, like we could see in the UK, there was a rising far right, so the government passed these laws to like kind of stop their street movement. That was eventually used. The same legislation was used to prescribe Palestine action and whatever. We know that is always what happens. But then, the far right organised in electoral politics. We've got the rise of reform. The same thing is happening here, like, far right organising on our street, One Nation, kind of turning that into also an electoral kind of front, I guess, even though they existed before and it's a bit weird what they're doing. But like, yeah, we know what happens here. We can see it. We just look around the world and we can see it. And it's just not good enough to be like, the Greens are just simply not going to stop that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Either because they support Labor, which is one of the things people are radicalizing against on the left and the right, and because they're not a party that mobilizes in unions or on the streets. Yeah. Like they do sometimes support, but it's secondary to what they do. So something totally different is required. But it's also just a reminder, like we're entering a very full-on era. Like who would have thought in Australia the Liberals are like they're actually facing collapse, like the Liberal Party of Australia. Like who grew up under John Howard and could imagine an Australia without the Liberal Party? And then you celebrate that and you think, oh yeah, sweet.
That's nice.
And then you're like, oh wait, Anson and Barnaby Joyce would then become the like. So
God,
that's
just evil.
Yeah, that's the direction of things, So it's a call to get organized, to be serious, like fighting the far right is not a spectator sport, and it's not like a once every 3 months when there's a protest sport. It's like it's an ongoing thing. We need to develop deep roots in working class communities, rebuild trade unions, if we're going to have a chance of fighting these people.
Riding out the party line.
Like and subscribe. People liked it when you did that, Omar.
One person liked it.
No, I think there were a few people that liked it.
Not that many.
I don't know.
I don't know.
How many subscribes and likes did we
Actually,
get?
that's a good question.
I don't know.
Check that.
Yeah, someone do
We're
the
not actually
data.
very good at analytics. And actually, I have a question for our listeners.
Yeah, go on.
How do we go viral?
We got to say something outrageous. Like
That's what everyone says.
But
Like Collingwood is actually not a good football team.
Oh my God. Oh, that was outrageous. Yeah. That's not what actually I'm at. The problem with like doing outrageous stuff is like, we don't want to be like Fuentes or anything like that.
No, yeah, like there's
So
Or
we
go to
can't-
jail
exactly. Also,
for saying like Palestine should be free properly.
yeah, I mean, like, I feel like if more people listened, a lot of what we'd said is outrageous. But like
True.
we'll get to a point where that is the case. Maybe one day. We could also start beef with someone.
That's
That's
true.
another way to do it. But that feels contrived.
We call out Pauline Hanson.
I mean,
Well, we just did.
yeah.
Should we invite her on the pod?
No.
I feel like Pauline Hanson
Do a
started
battle.
beef with me by putting
That's
me in.
true.
Yeah.
So
She
I
did
feel like
start
it's a
it.
fair
You should demand a right of reply.
to what like
Like,
I get to make a
make-
shitty
yeah.
drawing of her.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, she can do that herself.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know.
Um.
Anyway, we'd like your help.
Yeah,
We kind of think more people should listen to us, which, probably most podcasters think.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we're just
What
being
makes
lame.
us special?
I mean, like the next time Annika gets arrested, we could just post a video of
Film
it.
it.
Like that happens fairly regularly.
I don't really want to get arrested
No.
again at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a bit
I
rough.
haven't been arrested in a while. I'm
yeah,
open to it.
you could get arrested.
Or like punched in the face. It's been
Yeah.
a while since that happened.
What about if we filmed Omar getting punched in the face just like by someone?
Yeah, we'd
Just
need.
like in a room.
That video already
Yeah.
exists.
No, just like one of us punches you.
Oh,
Oh no, it can't be us.
like a deep fake.
That's
deep
that's
fake.
too contrived. Like it has to happen.
All right, well, we'll get back to you guys.
If you have
Yeah.
any better ideas, maybe in the meantime, just subscribe to our Patreon so that we can fund any such theatre
Yep.
that happens in the future.
And medical bills and lawyers' fees.
And that banner still hasn't been done.
And we
Yeah.
still don't have the cameras.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
like a lot of
it's
shit.
on the list. The banner has a 6-month wait, apparently. I mean,
What?
6-week wait,
Oh.
because apparently I don't know what the reason is, but
Oh,
it's
I think
coming.
maybe you went to the wrong one.
No,
Anyway,
I went to the right
I
one.
can usually get them in 3 days. But the other thing is, you might have noticed that the desk is clean.
kind
We've
of.
been taking your feedback. We're trying to like have a more ergonomic kind of space.
Yeah.
I think the person who complained about the desk looking ugly was a right winger.
I don't know.
Mm.
It was actually ugly.
Anyways,
What's the Einstein quote? It's like a clear desk is a sign of a clear mind or whatever.
yeah.
Which
Is it the opposite of that?
No, he was saying if you
If you have like a
clean
messy
desk,
desk,
you're
it's like
stupid.
you're thinking of
Oh,
lots of
yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
and-
Yeah, totally. I'm always pro quotes that justify messiness.
Yeah,
lateness,
totally. Yeah,
chaos.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're actually a functional human, it
Yeah.
shows you're actually crap.
All right. Well, it's good to be here with you guys and for the people listening. Bye.
This is a great, strong outro. Thank you.